Many industries have been hit since the global pandemic started 9 months ago. Among these industries, it is the travel sector that's unfortunately been affected the most. Today, we're focusing on the luxury travel and hospitality industry, in particular the marketing side of luxury travel. In order to get a first-hand view on things, we're speaking to David Nicol, co-owner of Jade Marketing, a luxury marketing agency specializing in data-driven direct marketing for luxury travel brands. All right, joining us from Berlin is David Nicol, co-owner of Jade Marketing. Hi, David.
Hi, Jean. How are you doing? Happy to be here.
I'm great, thank you. Thank you for joining us too, David. Okay, David, could you take us on a brief background on Jade Marketing, please?
Sure. Jade Marketing is basically the passion project of me and my wife, who is my other co-owner. We started the agency roughly 2 years ago. It was born out of the idea that my original background in terms of academia is in luxury management. I went to business school for it, where I met my wife. So that's where the connection comes from.
Okay.
And over the years, we've done some work for technology. We consulted in our individual careers for different luxury verticals like real estate, jewelry, fine arts. But due to the fact that we always were a very international couple and kind of like the idea of living a borderless life was always part of who we want to be, specializing on luxury travel verticals and creating an agency around our digital marketing expertise that we have accumulated over the years was kind of like the natural progression, of where we wanted our life to go, and the idea of entrepreneurship and freedom that comes with it, if you can make it, was like a big part of that. So
yeah, okay, that's interesting. So two like-minded people joined together, and you started it together 2 years ago. Quite an interesting journey. And David, what's the story? I find the name Jade quite unique. Is there a story behind that?
Yeah, there's a little story behind that. I mean, first of all, I read once a nice book that is very famous amongst advertising people called How to Sell the Invisible. And in the book it said, never call your business what it actually does.
Right.
And there's enough luxury agencies that are called the luxury agency or the luxury marketing agency. And we didn't want to be like that. Maybe it's going to be clear from this interview that we don't want to be like a lot of the traditional agencies in the way we do things. So Jade came basically from the fact that I, apart from my business degree, have also a degree in Chinese studies.
Wow.
I speak Mandarin, and my wife, apart from her business degree, has a degree in Japanese studies. She speaks fluent Japanese. So we, I always had a big love for Asia and Asian culture as well. And as you know, jade is famously the most precious material in Asian culture, or in Chinese culture, at least particularly. It has a lot of positive, borderline magical qualities associated with it. People wear it as pendants, as like good luck charms. And it usually was the material of kings and emperors, and they used to have used discs of jade that signified their status and things like that. So that's how one part of the name came about. And the other part, wolf, they're just my favorite animals.
Oh,
That's just how it is. Like wolf, because I really love wolves as animals. They are kind of like threatened in certain regions around the world. People usually see them as wild, dangerous predators, especially farmers and agricultural people. And we always thought that Jade one day should also do work with sustainability brands and maybe do a little bit, pro bono work or nonprofit work in that space. So with that in mind, we kind of combined that, Jade gave it a cool logo with the help of a nice designer, and chose the color like jade green for the brand.
Yeah, I really like.
That's how it comes about. Yeah, that's how it is.
It's very interesting, and like you said, you're not a traditional marketing agency.
No,
and
not at all.
One of the things that I read about your company is that you have this crusade to fight against the toxic culture. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, and how you're going along with this fight against it?
I think to explain that a little bit, I need to go a little bit wider and tell what type of agency Jade actually is, because some of that will explain why we don't like toxic work culture. So the agency world traditionally, an agency is a company that basically does every marketing service under the sun for the client, right? Where, okay, as long as we get the money of the client and as long as we can get the sale, we have the relationship, we're going to find some way to do it. And out of this kind of like broad focus was born like a culture that was very toxic for creative people and for technical people as well, and for management employees, no matter what it is. It's basically, okay, the client's going to submit us a 100-page request for proposal. We need to fill it out within 2 days. Then we need to spend a couple months preparing a huge pitch, doing it for free. Everybody's involved. Everybody's doing overnights. Then eventually we arrive in a boardroom, have a 20-minute slot amongst 10 other agencies that have done the same without really knowing the client or knowing what they really want and looking for. And then you get the business or you don't get the business, and then you repeat that ad infinitum multiple times each year. And if you think about that, this is the traditional way agencies do business in marketing, it's no surprise that people would start feeling burnout, that there is racism, sexism, just a purely toxic culture, a culture of secrecy, of trying to take the money of the client no matter the cost, because it's such a razor thin margin that you're working on most of the time in terms of your time, your energy, your resources. And we experienced that partially in our own careers. I myself worked on publisher side in the media industry, on the brand side, the client side, and the agency side as well. So I experienced it from multiple perspectives. Mm-hmm. And I can usually tell when an agency is kind of like running that kind of operation. It is quite visible from the communication and from the sales process. So we wanted to be different from that in that regard, that we thought, okay, we're going to specialize. We're going to specialize in luxury travel. We're not going to serve every client under the sun. We're going to focus on luxury travel, luxury hospitality, private aviation, and super yachting, because those are kind of like all the verticals where people just travel around. That's just kind of like one realm. And another specialization we wanted to have is that we want to be a data-driven direct marketing agency. So we're not really focusing on the brand marketing side of things, which usually involves producing fancy movies or really fancy photo shoots and editorials. While we sometimes will help clients do that as a tool, our main focus is kind of like generating leads and bookings through online digital channels, and helping companies, work with data, work with technology, while still retaining that aesthetical language that is so important in luxury, which resonates with wealthy clients, with high net worth individuals. So we have those two specializations. So we're not doing everything. We're doing something very particular, and we want to do it well. Another thing that inspired us to be different was a Brazilian entrepreneur called Ricardo Semler, who wrote a really famous book in the 90s called The 7-Day Weekend. I don't know if you heard about it, probably not. He basically came up with this philosophy that management has kind of like become warped, or people don't do well in traditional management structures because they're inspired by the military. Like the CEO is the general, the directors are the like highest officers, and then the employees are the soldiers who need to march on and die if necessary for the business, right? So, and we wanted to be different in that regard as well, because we knew like, okay, if we specialize, we can avoid a lot of the kind of like creative churn and toxicity from traditional agencies. But we also need to have a different sales process. We need to have a different process, how we, onboard new people, how we work with people, what kind of freedoms we grant them. And the philosophy of Ricardo Semler in this book really resonated with us, because he came up with principles, I guess he would call humane management. Some people have called it Semlerism. Mm-hmm. It basically revolves around a lot of different things, but the core tenets, I would say, is to give the employees freedom, treat them as humans, let them work the way they want to work, give them responsibility, but trust them to fulfill on these responsibilities. Don't necessarily always dictate, but let people come up with their own solutions and decisions, and have a very flat hierarchy. And and we thought with modern technology, we can make that happen. We can create an agency where, we are the owners, managers, but we can work with freelancers or contractors, maybe have them in somewhat of a membership relationship with the agency without even hiring them. And all we have to do is provide a framework, an infrastructure through technology that we can work with them, that they can deliver on the results that the client needs, that they can collaborate in projects. And we have to make sure that they resonate with us in terms of values. So for that fact, for example, we have a selection process where we don't only look at your skill set or your experience if you want to work with us, as a freelancer, just on a one-off project, or as a member, as a more like ongoing part of the team. But we also look at personality. So we ask people to do little personality tests for emotional intelligence, because we want to make sure that we don't end up working with dark triad personalities, people who are narcissistic, manipulative, and they're just looking for, a ways to position themselves inside their career. We're looking for people who are creative and open-minded, and who love to work with people who love their work, who love their craft. And obviously one rule we also have is you have to have worked with luxury brands before. You have to have somewhat of a connection. If you're a copywriter, you have to have written some maybe copy for a yachting brand or for a luxury fashion brand at least. If you're a videographer, it would help that you could have made some drone footage of a nice luxury resort flying over an island or something like that. So we look for these things, obviously, but the kind of like culture, the personalities, I would say the most important part.
That's great. So I think that's quite a refreshing change for both employees and your clients. I'm sure your clients will also feel that your approach is quite different, and also that as an agency, you're very, very targeted, not only in your clients, but you're also targeted in the two aspects that you can help in marketing, as you said, digital and data-driven marketing. Yeah.
Yes.
David, the company is roughly 2 years old. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
2 years on, and then suddenly the pandemic hits. How has it been like for your agency and for your clients the last 9 months?
Yes, I mean, I can say that it obviously hasn't been great, to say the least. The pandemic has hit the travel industry across all segments, not only luxury, but also, premium, mainstream discount. I would say that for us, being in our second year once the pandemic hits, obviously was a big, it slowed us down. It just slowed us down. Like projects, that were in the pipeline with potentially nice big brands fell apart because all of a sudden, clients didn't want to move forward. They didn't want to commit to an innovative new approach to their marketing, because that's basically our main pitch, so to speak. We try to go in and offer something innovative. Lots of people do digital marketing, but our perspective on it might be a little bit different and interesting. So, and then obviously when a crisis hits, people just want to, we do what we know, we do what is safe, or we don't do nothing at all. Yeah. Which for most travel and hospitality companies, I think was the case. Most of them were just shocked that, something like this would be going on, all of a sudden escalate so quick. So most of them froze their budgets, their advertising budgets. Which has affected not only us as an agency in terms of new clients, ongoing projects, but also, our partners, right? Media companies we work with and other types of suppliers in the ecosystem of digital marketing in travel. So, I mean, some larger hospitality brands, luxury hospitality brands in particular, Shangri-La comes to mind, for example, have done what I call like we're in this together campaigns. So meaning they basically committed to brand marketing campaigns with a focus on, this is who we are. We've been here for a while. We're a heritage brand. We're here to take care of you. We're doing all these things. We also have to work from home. Yeah. We also have to take care of our kids. Our dog is running through the screen when we have our important board meetings. And we will be here for you after this crisis is over. And we will do everything in our power to kind of like implement protocols and things to protect you, so you can still become our cherished guest while this is going on. And this then has shifted in hospitality in particular towards more of a once the first kind of like certifications came out for hospitality, the first companies that specialize in consulting hotels on that, how to be sterile, how to reduce contact, then that kind of like moved a little bit to the forefront in terms of USPs. Things you would use in your copywriting, in your advertising, to create trust and build trust around your offering. That has definitely come strongly to the forefront in hospitality. In travel, I would say, it really depends. A lot of travel companies, luxury travel companies, I feel, not the ones necessarily that have been working with us or started working with us in that year, but the big brand name ones, the traditional ones, they had to shift quite a lot because they were used to kind of like selling to a demographic that might not be very digital, maybe older demographics. Right. So they had to actually learn how to use video calls, how to use scheduling tools, how to present proposals digitally online and get them signed, and they had to also deal with the complications of travel restrictions, obviously. So, which countries can you still travel to while the pandemic is going on? Is everything locking down? Okay, let's say commercial airlines are not flying anymore, so first class, business class is not an option. Okay, some ultra high net worth individuals can charter. Okay, if you're getting a charter, where can the charter go? And once you're there, if you want a yacht, can the yacht still, go to marinas? And is there anything to do? So those kind of like complex requirements became a thing, which before you could just freely put itineraries together, which obviously would allow for a much more freer approach in your marketing as well. So it became a little bit more narrow in terms of the content, I would say, that brands have been putting out.
Okay. And as you said, when the pandemic hit, these brands suddenly wanted to go in a safe mode. They wanted to do what's safe, what they traditionally went, because they didn't want to take risks at this time. It must be challenging for you, because I know your brand is quite big on getting the brands to open their minds to try new methods in marketing. When you mentioned Shangri-La, that they now changed their marketing into trying to get the people to see that, we're just like you, we work from home. Were there did you find yourselves having to employ unorthodox methods, or did you have to adapt to a new marketing strategy because of the pandemic, similar to the Shangri-La one?
I would say it depends. Again, you have to split what has happened in travel and hospitality. In travel, I would say our work has mostly focused, and even though it slowed our growth as an agency down significantly, we were still able to acquire new clients. So we were really grateful for that people were willing to put their trust into us. Because some people had the idea, okay, David, I know right now, we cannot do a lot, and there's not a lot of our packages or destinations that we can sell. But we want to work with you to kind of like look beyond this year and beyond a little bit this pandemic, and set the kind of like stage for what comes next. So these kind of businesses, we were able to, onboard as clients, and we have been working with them on what comes next. For the ones that we had already, it was a lot about navigating, changing what kind of ads were running, or what kind of landing pages, content they had, email campaigns they had, towards something that is still sellable, basically, right? We had a discussion with a media partner of us, recently. They did a survey. It's a luxury magazine that I'm not going to name necessarily, but they said essentially that they did a survey in the middle of 2020 or so about for high net worth individuals, how the pandemic and the outcome, the potential long tail of the pandemic will affect their travel planning for 2021. And the overwhelming majority said that it won't affect it at all. Meaning the people still want to travel. They want their summer vacation, they want their winter vacation, and if they're affluent enough, they will find a way to do it. So with our travel clients, we've been trying to find offers and turn them into marketing campaigns that are data-driven and driven towards lead generation that can, accommodate that. For example, if you are an American, you can still go for safaris. You can still go for luxury safaris. They will accept Americans. If you want to go to Russia, you can go through Turkey. If you have the means, you can stay in Mexico for 14 days and then go to the States if you want to go to the States from Europe. So if you're willing to make adjustments, commit to a little bit of quarantine in a luxury accommodation. So there's a lot of options that you can do if you really want to travel. Obviously, the demand for these more complex travel offers has been lower. That's true. But it was still there. And now with the vaccine, we're looking also a little bit things getting better soon. And hospitality, a lot of times hotels, I think, have focused on domestic business, domestic travel. Obviously, their MICE business, has completely disappeared, basically, because the annual shareholder meeting and the 5-star resort or hotel has completely gone away. That has gone digital. And it's going to be probably the part that comes back the latest when the restrictions go away and there's a general feeling of safety with the vaccines coming on the market. But they have focused a lot on domestic and, trying that short distance, that car travel versus like airplane travel. And, now it has gone national again. And, now, for example, you can even go to Thailand again. You can go to the Maldives again. You can, again, I mentioned safaris before. So things are slowly, inside of Asia in particular, like Asian travel corridors between China, Japan, Korea, Southeast Asia, Singapore, that is already relatively free because these countries have dealt with it much better. So again, all of that in turn affects the marketing that is going on. So.
True. I think with this market, the fortunate thing is that the demand for travel is still there. And in fact, over the last 9 months, I think surveys have seen that there's a lot of pent-up demand for travel. It's just a question or a matter of where is it that they can safely travel to, and if they're willing to take that risk. And on that note, going into the market for luxury travel, have you seen that this market has suddenly changed their interests, or at least how they now define luxury? Like, do they now put emphasis on safety and hygiene, whereas, maybe a year ago, this wouldn't even have been a topic? What changes have you seen in the market?
I would always like to say you can look at it from two sides. On one side, if you look at it from an economical perspective, demand in luxury travel has always been relatively static and not dependent on things like price or supply or how the economy is faring or not. Wealthy individuals tend to not spend as overtly when there's a crisis going on in the world. They tend to focus more on, kind of like, staying under the radar. The more wealthy they are, that's the more general, like they don't want to be necessarily known for their lavish trips or their private chartering a Gulfstream to just fly, for 2 hours coast to coast. But I would say that, essentially these companies that have kind of like stayed the same route have experienced that people still want it. They just cannot necessarily fulfill it, right? So that has been one thing. So in that regard, I would say luxury hasn't changed. And another way, when you're looking at, what kind of like trust indicators people are asking for in hospitality, for example, obviously resorts are doing better right now than city hotels, right? The Mandarin Oriental or whatever Marriott property it is in the city center of New York, not doing so well right now, right? But their resort properties in some, remote islands or somewhere where we can allow for easier social distancing, easier touch point-less kind of like interactions between front office staff, cleaning staff, and the guests. Now that has become much more successful, right? So maybe people have become a little bit more concerned about safety in the sense that they want to be a little bit away from the crowds even more than before.
Yeah.
And but then there's also always a segment in luxury travel that is very affine towards adventure travel, right? People who want to go on expeditions, safaris, Arctic expeditions, who want to go to the jungle, who want to interact with local cultures, learn some of the local customs, obviously have their creature comfort satisfied, but they want to, stay in an exciting hunting lodge or something like that. So that is always there as well. So yeah, luxury is really not a monolith. It's kind of hard to say. I would say if the restrictions would go away today, it would be fully on there again.
On board again, yeah. And finally, David, how do you see luxury travel marketing coming out in the coming year? Like any trends that you see that will suddenly arise?
I can be idealistic about it, what I wish would happen, and I can say what probably will happen for sure. What will probably happen for sure is that again, luxury hospitality brands, the domestic is already there, international will slowly come back, then MICE will come back as well. So they will probably amp up their spending again. Traditionally, these large luxury hospitality franchises spend a lot on brand marketing, but I think, they might start spending more on direct, on more data-driven campaigns to drive direct bookings versus just getting the brand out there. That's what I hope will happen, because then agencies like Jade can help them, and we will get a little bit more business from them. In travel, we already have campaigns that are data-driven campaigns in the pipeline for January, for Q1, again for aiming for the spring-summer season. And I would say what I hope in general will happen is that this pandemic has shown some of the very traditional and maybe old-fashioned players in luxury travel and hospitality in general that they need to embrace digital technology. They need to embrace what is in their CRM, what kind of data they have with their website, with their email marketing, what kind of data they leverage from their partners, from companies that profile high net worth individuals, that look at how the wealthy behave and move, and how they can translate that into more modern ways to buy media, be it advertising on social media platforms, or programmatically, or on apps. And like in China, the whole WeChat advertising is such a powerful tool, for example. And I just wish that brands will embrace that more, instead of this old school thought that, okay, luxury is only word of mouth. We're only doing business for referrals, and we're only going to do VIP events, the traditional golf tournament, the cricket tournament, Wimbledon, etc. And we send our salespeople there, and that's how we get our business. Because that was not possible the whole last year. That was not there. That was not possible. And people need to find alternative methods, and these methods can be very powerful if employed correctly. And with the right mindset. So that's what I hope will happen. And I think that is already happening to a certain degree, and it will just accelerate even more looking at 2021.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm with you on that. I think that would be the wake-up call that these big brands would have had, because prior to the pandemic, I think they were in a position to still stick to those traditional methods, no matter, I hear that frustration, with the marketers, luxury marketers telling them to switch, or at least a lot more of their budget towards digital marketing. But I think now they've got a whole year to realize that this is true all along.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I don't want to because I think that would be vulgar to say that it has helped digital marketing in general, or a data-driven mindset, this pandemic, even though it might have, because so many people have suffered from it. People lost their businesses. People had to rely on government aid and all kinds of things just to get through and not furlough all of their employees. As hospitality and travel, so many people had to be furloughed. I hope that most of them will be able to return to their roles. Because we've experienced it so much in our own outreach and connecting with people on LinkedIn, that, David, I wish I could do something with you, but I'm furloughed, and I don't know if my resort will open up again. I don't know if when my hotel will be open up again. And I always write these people like, let's stay positive. I hope you will get something. Let me know if I can help you somehow. For the obviously executive management at the top of these luxury travel companies, or DMCs, or tour operators, whatever it might be, and hospitality companies as well, like the big players, Accor, Marriott, etc. They had to let go so many people, and obviously lots of restructuring is happening from what I've heard in the back end. And a lot of the things that they do will be more digital in the future. And things that even are very advanced, like virtual showings of suites, and more tools, augmented reality, chat flows, website personalization, marketing automation, to a degree where before it was not thinkable that luxury brands would use that. So for me, that's positive news, because I feel that's where the industry needs to go, because luxury travel in all its different manifestations has traditionally always been a little bit behind a couple of steps. When it comes to things like the tech industry, or even manufacturing, or other industries, how they use technology, because they feel that it's not personalized enough, and wealthy people will be turned off by technology. But every person who knows a couple of people who have a little bit more money will know that they're very in tune with technology.
True.
They're on their phone all the time, and you just need to find a way to engage with them in the correct way. So
especially now, even if those people, I've known a lot of people who maybe a year ago weren't so much into technology, but now they really had no choice, and they've come to embrace technology. So
and once you're on it, you're not going to stop, because it's too convenient, it's too useful, correct. And that's the way it is.
That's correct. Yeah, well, David, I really like your positive outlook for the coming year. And the good, the fortunate thing is, while we speak, the vaccinations are coming. And while we're still, I think the world is, watching with bated breath how these vaccinations are coming. I think, let's remain hopeful, and hopefully the industry that we all love, travel industry, will come back to what it was. And if not, maybe there's something better.
I mean, where some businesses had to maybe die, new ones can be born, and some of the people who might have lost their jobs will maybe start their own businesses, and in a couple of years we will see the fruits of that. So, and I'm just grateful for our clients, for the people who give us their trust, since we are such a kind of like crazy modern agency in how we do things. And I just have hopes for the travel industry and for the luxury segment in particular, because luxury always tries to be at the forefront of when it comes to things like aesthetics, design, quality of service, personal care for the guest and for the traveler. And now we just need to make that bridge to also like how we market and sell to them in the modern world. So, and I believe that will happen.
Yes, I believe so too. Well, David, thank you very much for imparting insights and a lot of information about luxury in travel and hospitality in that market for the coming year. And we will talk to you soon again.